What's up, YouTube? I want to talk about the yin and the yang, and how there's such a thing as too balanced, or being too balanced in a sense. If we look at a seesaw that has evenly distributed weight on both ends, there is no motion. There is no changing or adapting or learning or teaching with no motion. No motion creates energy buildup and energy blockages or explosions or implosions. Energy has to go somewhere eventually, like holding a beach ball underwater. So, we look at the yin and the yang. It's not just two. Again, we can look at the power of three again, because there's always that between presence between the yin and the yang that creates the fusion of the two. And we balance it. And that fusion is not static. It's just dynamic interplay between two opposing forces or two complementary forces, however you want to look at it. So when we push to either end, or in any way in general, on the seesaw and create waves, create energy or motion, then we learn, because we're going up and down a wavelength of some sort at least. So we got to be conscious of the wavelengths that we are in the grand scheme of things. Because like in all things, there's a cycle or a circle. In one way or another, all things have some sort of cycle going on, whether it be the canal of your ear cycling or whatever. There's a cycle present. So if you're looking at your 7-year cycle, or if you are at a point where you're looking at eons now, as we move about the eons, and you're that conscious of yourself, because we are living embodiments of the universal flow. So anybody that knows themselves can begin to know who they were. By knowing who they are, they know who they were. And the battle for the past is the battle for the future. So, on to this vampirism thing a little bit more, and subtle energies, and how to send energies out, whether they be to create something. Honestly, I feel like you should use your own judgment, because anytime you give something out, or anytime you want something, you're gonna give something, in a sense, regardless. Even if you want someone dead or whatever, that's why I would say, as far as the code of this thing, you yourself hold yourself accountable. You know what's complementary and what's not. So, if we're aligning the chakras, and we're at a state of peace, or at a state of less clutter at least, then we can properly, when it comes to subtle energies, you can think of energy balls, and as far as affirming things, going through that process of speaking things into existence and saying things that you will do or are doing. Because again, you shouldn't say I am doing this. You shouldn't say I'm about to do this. You should say I'm doing this. So the wording has to be that way, because otherwise it creates a sense of time and anxiety. So you should say I am learning the piano. I'm not about to, or what have you. And that should be the same thing when you are affirming something after a meditation or during meditation, however you please, however you do it, or just in your taking a walk, however you're doing it, consciously walking or anything. So when you have connected with the mind's eye to where you know what's the subtle things, when you see the subtle realm, and you can see it with your eyes closed, and you're seeing with the first eye, then you can begin to visualize and create things like energy balls. So when you affirm something, you can stuff it into this energy ball, concentrate it up and down the chakras in a visual sense. You might use your hand to guide your mind's eye at first, to make yourself aware of all the chakras as you go up and down them. And you think of it as a bigger ball at first, maybe the size of your fist. Then concentrate it into the size of a pea, and keep bringing it, making it smaller and smaller as you go up and down the chakras. You should do this probably while you inhale. Think of it as you're inhaling what you affirmed. You're inhaling it from the diaphragm, breathing from the diaphragm, holding it there. Particularly, it would be good if you can get in a lotus position or some type of position where you lose sense of having two legs and you can look at it as having one leg. So, and the same thing with your hands, how you place your hands. You could do it that way too. Your hands aligned as well. To where you have the hands together, you inhale what you're affirming, you bring it down the chakras to the root chakra where the raw energy is. That's where raw energy is coming from. That's why people are just leaking raw energy all day, living in this root chakra hell. So, that's where the raw energy is. You bringing the energy ball there, concentrating it up and down the chakra system that you have just aligned. And you get to a point where you come to the end of your inhalation, you're holding it for maybe 15 or 20 seconds. And as you exhale, you basically explode what you're affirming out as you exhale. But not like exhale in a sense where you just, you want to exhale the same way you inhaled, whether it was slow or fast or whatever. So it's a balanced inhale and exhale. So you put that out into the universe, and you should see it with your eyes closed this whole process. You should see the ripple coming off of you. That's how we begin to train our mind's eye to pick up on subtle energies and the subtle realm in general. So when it comes to vampirism and people putting tendrils in you and connecting to you in all different ways, whether it be touching or whatever, you can sever these things. Again, sometimes it hurts more to sever them than to just neglect it and let that thing dry up to the point where the flow is not there. Where you may only have a thought or a connection from this person once every 3 eons, instead of maybe ripping it out and pulling something from your auric body. Because again, there's an auric body too. This is part of the subtle body. This is the part of your being that maybe it didn't want to become totally dense physical. And this is what we call the aura. But people get caught up in the aura in a sense where, oh, this person's aura is this or that. But if beauty is only skin deep, what is the aura? The aura isn't even skin deep. So you have to take that into account when we're talking about the aura. But damages to the auric body are not to be taken lightly. The subtle body in general. Because that's where it starts. Somebody slips a tendril into you eons ago, connects with you, and who knows what they have done through that pipeline over the eons. And it's now, so you can control these things now. It's not to make you feel like it's out of your hands because it happened 6,000 years ago or whatever. It's something that you can, grab by the horns now. So you can choose to sever the tie, acknowledge it, and dry it up to the point where energy does not flow through it like it once was. It's however you want to do it. But again, when you sever something and you rip a piece of you off because you're now intimately connected through these things, you have to bandage it, or you're leaving an open wound in the auric body, in a subtle body. So you have to visually see that. You have to visually see yourself giving energy to taping that wound up as well. And these things all, if you leave these things open, they can just get right back in, or someone else or something else, another entity can sink its teeth in. So that's a little lesson on generating energy, I guess, and sending it out. And it will come back. Has no choice to. And severing ties or diminishing ties. And once you get to a point where you can move about in the so-called dreamscape, anybody that's attacking you at a subtle or psychic level like that, once you become aware of yourself and become self-actuated, self-realized, then you can move about and send energies down that pipe that are not pleasant for them, to where they would no longer want to try to harvest these energies that are coming off you, because you can direct the energy properly now. So when it comes to invoking spirits or beings or these things, leprechauns and these things people want to give names to, these are all things that we as creators have given energy to, whether it's Loki or any of these things. We've given energy to these things to the point where the energy becomes self-actuated. Again, like I said in other videos, two beings collide, the energy that the byproduct or offspring of that collision can create a child, and that's what the child's energy body is made up of. They're from that wave of energy, and they can shed it, go into another wave of energy, but most never do. So as beings, we have created these angles or angels of the shadows and of the light, and certain angles have been given certain energy, and we can surf these waves to get certain information from these angles. And I would just say a well-versed, a well-practiced person, being, should, or could, invoke one of these things. But at the same time, it's just energy from us, energy from yourself. Like if you see your grandmother in a dream, could be just an aspect of you that you find comforting, and you project it as your grandmother. Evil thing, you project it as Satan, this beastly thing, or whatever. So either way, it's something that we have all created with this collective consciousness, or the greater subconscious of us all, whatever, however, what have you, the collective consciousness, however you want to do it. This video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to cut it short, but just realize that's what these things have become. They become self-actuated. If a billion people feel as though Jesus should exist, that energy will be embodied. If a billion people feel like Satan should exist, the energy will be embodied.